If you were to ask me what my favorite LEGO locomotive is, I would have to say it's the Maersk Locomotive from the 10219 Creator Expert set. This set was designed by Pierre Normandin, whose first collaboration with the LEGO Group was building 3 of the models for the 10183 Hobby Train set. He later worked for Mega Bloks, yes, Mega Bloks, before eventually being hired on at LEGO. He has designed many awesome sets over the years. Let me know your favorite in the comments below. This was a set I had many years ago. I had always loved LEGO trains, but wasn't able to afford them until I was an adult. I didn't have much track or room for LEGO train layouts, so I eventually sold my Maersk train on eBay to expand my LEGO Mindstorms collection. I've always regretted that decision, but money was very tight back then. Today, I'm making this right by making an alternate version of the Maersk Locomotive. The Maersk blue parts used in the original set are very expensive and are exclusive to these sets. I was inspired by a channel you've probably heard of, AFOOL and KFOL Bricks, to try a cheaper color option. They've chosen to build theirs in green, which I think looks quite good. After a bit of experimentation in Bricklink Studio, I decided to go with dark azure. I couldn't stop myself at just one, so I'm building 3. Yes, 3 locomotives. One of my favorite projects I've done was acquiring 2 of the 60052 locomotives and running them back to back. I guess I had to top myself and build 3 this time. I'll be running these locomotives in a multi-unit setup where they will all be in the front of the train, as opposed to the newer distributed power setups where locomotives can be in the middle or even at the tail end of a train. I've been spending more and more time lately learning about real trains and how they operate. One such source of information has been the YouTube channel Distant Signal. Danny has some excellent videos on trains, and it's even more interesting to me since these are trains that run through my neck of the woods in the southeastern US. Be sure to check out his channel with the links in the description. From here, we're going to take a look at the completed locomotives and get into the details of how they are built. Alright, well let's check out the final, well somewhat final, version of the Maersk locomotives. So this is a dummy unit. It doesn't even have the bars yet. We're going to do that in just a second here. This is the second dummy unit. And then the main motorized locomotive. And there's a lot of really cool things I want to get into with this. So let's start there. Okay, so this is the main unit. This is the motorized locomotive. So of course we have 2 powered up motors here. You could do it with 1, but I'll get into why that would be a little bit problematic. Originally, this was a power functions train, despite any confusion you may hear on the AFOOL podcast.
I forgot about that.
Is it power function?
No, yeah, I think, what year did it come out?
But what I've done, I guess we'll go into the power section first. So this comes off. It's a little bit of a pain because it's all held in place on the bottom, but this top part here isn't very secure because all these kind of grill tiles, they don't have great clutch power, so this all ends up a bit loose. It's fine though, it looks good. So here, this is where your power functions receiver would normally go, but I've just got kind of what the default was, which was just some 2x4 bricks as kind of a placeholder, and then the hub is basically the same size as a power function hub, so it fits right in there just fine. And something I had forgotten, and I had watched videos of folks with the original Maersk locomotive, they would take this top section off to turn it on, which is kind of crazy to me. That's something I would engineer into the build, and I'll show you how I've done that. So you've got, you know, these pieces here, that's what they would take off to get to the power button. So let's take, can I take this off? Okay, so you've got the hub in here, and what I've done is I've got one of these 2x2 rounded tiles, or whatever you want to call it here, and I've just got a 1x2 there to give it a little bit of space. So you just press it like that, and it will turn on the hub. So that works fine and well. So even with, this is not modified at all. This is just the way you would build it. You can actually press the button with it. So that works very well. But now, if you just have like this over it, you can't see the LED and you can't see what the hub's doing. which is more of an issue if you're like me and running pie bricks, because you need to know if the hub turned on, if the program is running, or if it's connected to the controller. So it's a little more to it than just a standard firmware. So I created this. So you may recognize this is a fiber optic element. So I cut this down. These really aren't as rare as people might think. They might not have seen them before, but they were in the robotics invention sets. They were in the Spybotics sets in various lengths. So I didn't really have an issue cutting this. So I just cut this short little section here, maybe a little less than 1 inch long. And just like that. And then now that serves as your light for the hub. I'm pretty happy with that. I could have done something maybe out the back here to be able to see, or maybe something that was a little cleaner. I don't mind this. I actually kind of like this solution. Quite proud of it, if you can't tell. So that's one of the things that won't be in the instructions, but that's why I'm covering it in the video here. So that covers the power. And let's get this all put back together. Then you've got your railings here. I'm not a huge fan of the rigid tubing and droid arm railings here, but I don't know what else you could do. I can't think of anything to replace it with. I just don't like, because they kind of flop around a little bit. When I first pulled this out, this droid arm was pushed way over here somehow. So I went ahead and went with it. And these rigid tubing, if you try to get this length, it's very expensive. But you can get 32 length very cheaply. I got these for maybe $1.75 each or something like that. So it still added up to buy 20 of them. But still, that would have cost me, for these two, would have cost me that much easy. I mean, or I forget how many it was, but these are about $10 each for, I think that's 28 length. So that was a much better solution. And even if you don't want to cut them, you can see this bottom one here, that's a 32, which is actually the length of the locomotive, basically, from these clips. So you don't have to cut the bottom one if you don't want to. But when I had this as a 32 across, it looked kind of stupid being in front of where you would, presumably there would be a door, even though this train does not have a door. And then this side, I did cut it. So I'm going to end up cutting that one. And we're going to talk about cutting that in just a second. Before we get there, let's finish up with the locomotive here. So this is a 28 length train base. I use light bluish gray or dark bluish gray because the black version is very expensive. There's different molds for it, but no matter what, the 28 length in black is always going to be very expensive. And I needed to save money because I wanted to build 3 of these. To me, I'm not a collector. I would much rather put my money towards having 3 of these. I think that looks sweet. It's something I haven't seen before, and you'd be surprised for this entire Maersk project when you see the full thing. I probably could have bought 1, maybe 2 of these sets online for what I've built, and I've built much more than that. So I don't mind having everything exactly color, period accurate, the right molds. I don't care at all. I do what makes me happy. Same thing like with this. This is not Maersk blue. This is dark azure. And I think it looks great. I think I like this color better. And if you look on sites like Brick Sticker Shop, they have Maersk stickers in at least 4 different colors. Again, we're going to talk about stickers in the next video. But the instructions I made for this are assuming you're not going to use stickers. So that's why we have these triangle tiles here to get that nice little downward white stripe. I think that looks good on its own. If you end up getting stickers, you'll use a 2x4 tile here. And then the sticker has that white downward stripe going down. So beyond that, a lot of the changes were in the interior. Bricks that you just wouldn't see from the outside. I just put them in black. Black's a very common color. I order a lot of black parts. I keep a lot of black parts on hand. So, I wasn't going to have dark azure pieces on the interior that you couldn't even see. It just didn't make sense to me it seems wasteful. But I understand when you're Lego and you're building a set and you only have all the 1x4s in the set are one color, it gets their lots down to have all of one piece and one color, things like that. And I continued out here a little bit with the dark bluish gray just to make it look a bit cleaner since this isn't black like in the original set. And then of course the cab comes out just like the original set. I think these were black in the original, but I went with the light bluish gray just to give it a little bit of contrast, a little more color. And then you've got the kind of cockpit in there. So an issue I ran into is if you build this motor bogie here, I tried to make non-motorized versions of these. And if you've seen my previous videos, I do not use the kind of Technic beam and Technic axle bogies because they have so much friction. It's just not worth it, especially if you've got two trailing behind. So I built these non-motorized bogies, and I have separate instructions for these if you want to build them. If you need to build one for if you just have a single motor locomotive. I will warn you that these are one plate too high, and that's just a limitation of being able to build these, because if you take that plate out and you snap this in, all these studs right here will interfere with, they'll be bouncing up against here. It'll basically lock it in place solid. It will not be able to turn. So the only way I knew to do it was to add a plate height, and you can't really tell when they're all rolling together. But if you had a single motor locomotive, that could cause you issues. You know, it might kind of sit funny at an angle. So I will give you that warning. And if you only have a single locomotive, single motor, maybe a few cars, 2 or 3, you could probably get away with the original Technic bogie, and you know, that should probably be fine. So let's get into the rigid tubing and cutting them to the right length. So I'm going to have a link to instructions to build this. I found this completely just randomly on Reworkable, and I am absolutely in love with it. It's just kind of a jig for cutting your tubing in the right length. So this is 8, 16, 24. That's the length we want for these long guys here. So basically, you just kind of space these out a little bit here. I think I had, is there one more in there? Yeah. Okay. So basically, you take your 32 length hose, which, I mean, you could use different lengths, but that's the cheapest I found. Wait, what is, oh. That's what that plate was there for. So you just have this kind of notch where you want it to end, and just push it down in there. These pieces at the end might get a little bit damaged from this, which that's why I use this weird orange tile, something I'm not going to miss. And in the instructions, it has a few different little add-ons down here if you want to get like half and quarter stud lengths if you need to do that. For me, I want a straight 24 stud length. And I think I showed this on Discord, and they were like, why not just use measuring tape? What's wrong with that? For just several reasons. I love this solution so much. It takes all the guesswork out of trying to get it just exactly right. And when you're cutting, this tubing's a little thick. I feel like the thickness has varied over time. Because I feel like I've cut some of these tubes and they squished because the walls of the tubing were just thinner than this. So this kind of helps because it's supported on 3 sides. It helps it from not spreading out. And you see how many I had to cut, you know, 12 of these. I needed 4 for 3 locomotives. So I am absolutely in love with this. Well, my knife's bottoming out here since I'm trying to do this on camera. Let's see if I can, just like that. And see, I did cut into the pieces. But I'm not that worried about it. And there you go. There's a 24 length hose. I need 2 at least. I think I need a couple more actually. And I actually have used this jig for a future project that I have coming up. And I've already needed to cut more of these and probably need to order more. But at least they're only $1.75 each instead of paying like 10 bucks to get the right length. So let's take our locomotive here, and it should be exactly the right length. I'll just pop it in all the way down, and that's, I don't have it completely centered, but that's exactly the right length that I need throw some droid arms on there, and then put this on, and we're good to go. So again, there are instructions linked in the description. They're not unrebrickable because this is, I think it's too simple of a modification for Rebrickable to approve it. So everything's just kind of on a Google Drive. Separate instructions for the non-motorized bogies. Anything else I might throw in there. Just look for links below. This project is far from over. We're going to be doing stickers. We're going to be doing containers. We're going to be doing a bunch of wagons. So be sure to check back for that. You can join our Discord. I have teased this project a little bit on Discord. The Discord's free to join, although we do have a members only section, but primarily most of the Discord is free. I don't want to put, I really limit the things I put behind a paywall because this is my contribution to the LEGO community, not them contributing to me. But the contributions do help because I do spend quite a lot of money and time with these projects. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see the conclusion of the series, and we'll see you there.
The Maersk was
that was one that we put on our list.
But that was a 9-volt technically. Because
oh my goodness! Do I got to take it off my list?